Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, April 30th, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week to try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast. What does that mean? That means we only cite from sources that have award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, Daily Beast, wherever you get your extreme left or extreme right views from. We simply don't do that. At the same time, guys, we do try to watch our language, but let's be honest, words do fly. At the same time, guys, maybe things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, 100 days since we've been, unfortunately, stuck with this guy. 100 days since we've been stuck with him. And for some odd reason, F-47 cannot let Biden go. Why? Well, you need somebody to blame for your failures instead of taking a lack of accountability. Or as a reporter pointed out, yeah, you was happy when everything was good, but now that everything is going down the crapper because of you, let's go back to Old Faithful.
Tonight, President Trump looking to shift blame to his predecessor for a U.S. economy that shrank during the start of his second term.
You probably saw some numbers today. And I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January.
America's GDP down 0.3% in the first 3 months of this year. Trump the president for all but 20 days of it. The decline seen as a reaction to the president's trade war. U.S. production down, analysts say, largely because so many businesses rushed out to buy imports before tariffs kicked in. Meanwhile, the president also blaming Biden for sharp drops in the stock market, posting, quote, "This is Biden's stock market, not Trump's. I didn't take over until January 20th. That's despite posting last year under President Biden that, quote, "the Trump stock market was booming because of his poll numbers." He was pressed today.
You're saying that's the Biden stock market, yet you are the president. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I'm not taking credit or discredit for the stock market. I'm just saying that we inherited a mess. We came in on January 20th. So this is Biden. And you can even say the next quarter is sort of Biden because it doesn't just happen on a daily or an hourly basis.
And the president again acknowledging his border tax on Chinese imports could hurt American consumers.
Somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know? And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
At a rally in Michigan overnight, arguing his tariffs are critical to boost American business.
After decades of politicians who destroyed Detroit to build up Beijing, you finally have a champion for workers in the White House. And instead of putting China first, I'm putting Michigan first, and I'm putting America first.
Businesses divided on the tariffs' impact. Master Hatters in Texas makes its hats here and supports Trump's tariffs.
It's going to hurt our competition because they're buying product made in Mexico or China or wherever it's made at.
But at a beauty supply shop in Memphis, where most of their stock comes from China, the tariffs have created deep uncertainty.
As a small business, having a cash flow to try to beat the tariffs is difficult, right? Because we're very lean. The reality is some of that has to be passed to the consumer.
Garrett, let me ask you tonight, the Senate is voting on a resolution about the Trump tariffs. Exactly what are they doing?
Yeah, that's right, Lester. It's a bipartisan resolution to end the national emergency that President Trump has used to implement the tariffs. But it's all symbolic, as it would not pass or likely even be brought up on the floor for a vote in the House.
And to fast forward that, yeah, it didn't pass. Matter of fact, it got shot down. But why are we surprised, folks? It's F-47. He'll take credit when everything is going great. Oh, the stock market bounced back up because of my tariffs. And when the stock market's crashing, when companies are being more leaner, jobs being lost. It's all Biden's fault. My God. Pick one. I'm sorry, F-47. Pick one. Either you own it or you don't. But my God, how many more times are we going to keep, or, what kills me is whenever it comes to Trump, he always goes back to Biden. It's almost like you hate this man so much, he lives rent-free in your head. Or you realize that the cult of people that follow you are idiotic, so you can sit there and say, oh, this isn't my economy, it's Biden's. Really? Well, if we're comparing, Biden's economy was actually taking us out of inflation. The job market was actually getting better. Consumer confidence was actually increasing. It was only until a certain F-47 turned around and said, well, I'm going to do tariffs against every other country. And then every other country sat there and said, okay, cool, reciprocal tariffs right back at you. And then you decide to stage your own one-man war with China. A company, not a company, that's wrong. A country to where 90% of our products we get from them. We get over, okay, maybe 90 is a strong number. Let's just say 80, because it's quite a lot. If you really think about it, a lot of the things that China exports, we do import. And just like the lady there at the beauty salon, hair care comes from there, comes from overseas. I do love how the hat makers, we proudly make it in America. And I think the tariffs are great because it's twofold for you. Because you know that your competition, which depends on cheaper goods, will have a hard time trying to keep afloat. At the same time, you're the only club in town. You can set prices to whatever you want. So, of course, he's going to be happy about it. But it amazes me so that these tariffs, which, again, haven't been implemented yet, but Trump loves to turn around, the F-47 that he is, loves to turn around and say, I'm gonna throw tariffs at this, I'm going to throw tariffs at this, I'm going to throw tariffs at this. Because he's a tariff man. Not understanding that tariffs, since the industrial age, have never brought back businesses to the U.S. Never. And I'm going to be honest, since Republicans opened the doors to allow businesses to escape overseas to tax shelters, I'm sorry, the factories that you hope that will come back will never come back, because overseas has figured out how to do it faster, how to do it cheaper, and the labor issues, not really much of a concern to them. But hey, F-47 believes that, hey, it can only work if my tariffs are in place. And yet the Republicans, led by Rand Paul of all people, tried to actually get a stop on those tariffs. And lo and behold, much like the Republican Party usually does, they will go whatever their cult leader Trump says to go with. And again, it's uncertainty, especially for businesses. Small businesses are starting to be like us. We're 1 or 2 paycheck away from being out in the street. Businesses are 1 or 2 shipments short of closing their doors. So again, Trump loves to sit there and blame others, and yet he created the mess. It's amazing how he calls himself the hero, the savior. You created the problem, and now you're trying to come back in and fix it. And then you're going to do this immediately. Well, who made this mess? You made this mess. And again, like we said, 100 days in office, so Trump is. And just for anybody wondering what he's done so far, let's recap.
So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
The first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others. The next item here is the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Treaty.
This is a proclamation guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion based on the current crisis of the southern border.
So this is January 6th, and these are the hostages, approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Full presidential pardon, that's what we got. Nobody gets those, people like me.
Marco Rubio has been sworn sworn in as
Pete
Secretary of
Hegseth,
State.
sworn in
Pam Bondi was sworn in as Attorney
Tulsi
General.
Gabbard as the nation's intelligence chief.
Air Force One is currently in international waters, the first time in history flying over the recently renamed Gulf of America.
The Prime Minister and I focused on the future, discussing how we can work together to ensure Hamas is eliminated and ultimately restore peace to a very troubled region.
The president spoke alongside Jordanian King Abdullah.
Modi and Trump's friendly report.
The president hosted French counterpart Emmanuel Macron.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer was at the White House.
President Trump has cut short talks with Ukraine's leader after an extraordinary Oval Office meeting.
Your country's in big trouble. Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
The people voted for major government reform, and that's what the people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for.
We are told that they've been told to telework, which is the exact opposite of what they've told everybody else in the federal government, which is you can't telework.
If you really want to make America great, that's what you do. You treat your civil servants fairly, and you should bring them back.
The American dream is unstoppable, and our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again.
President Trump is downplaying his national security team texting a military operation plan on a Signal chat group that included a journalist.
Nobody's texting war plans.
I'm going to buy because, number one, it's a great product, as good as it gets. And number two, because this man has devoted his energy and his life to doing this. I think he's been treated very unfairly by a very small group of people. We're going to get them out. We're coming up to get you. I've authorized Elon. I said, can you get them out? Because, they've been left up there. We have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd.
What does his Liberation Day mean to the people that are shackled to debt?
In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world.
President Trump is digging in his heels even as global markets plunge and recession fears grow over his tariffs.
More than 1,000 hands-off demonstrations took place across the nation this Saturday. People gathered to protest the Trump administration's actions on government downsizing, the economy, human rights, and other issues.
First of all, President Bukele said that he is not going to smuggle a foreign terrorist back into the United States of America, as many in this room in the Democrat Party seemingly want him to do.
What the Trump administration did admit in court was that Kilmar Abrego Garcia has been mistakenly detained.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is 100 days. 100 days since F-47 has taken office, and it has been a disaster. Executive orders rescinding the previous President Biden's executive orders, giving pardons to the terrorists of January 6th. His numerous cabinet appointees, including appointing a drunk as a Secretary of Defense, and all the more, still believing he's winning. And I find it amazing that people still defend him. People, like I said before, people who are for F-47, you either are insanely rich or you're a corporation. Those are the only two groups of people that love what he's doing right now. Oh, unless you're Amazon, but we'll get to that momentarily. But speaking of the drunk, because we need to get to him, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, or drunk guy, because let's be honest, do you think he's really sober in that picture? I'm just saying. But decided that not only is he going to end a DEI program for women, which is still funny that Christine Noem and Marco Rubio were former co-chairs of the bill that led to its creation, the Women, Peace, and Security Program, that was trying to expand opportunities for women in the Department sector for defense and security. He called it woke. Yes, a drunk former National Guard, and I'm not dissing the National Guard. I'm not. I'm dissing him. I just want to be direct about that. But a former, never is really sober National Guard is calling a program to which two of his co-appendees under the F-47 administration, he is now calling woke. Really, Pig headset Pete? Really, Pete? It's woke. For all those that don't remember, Pete was a former Fox News correspondent, and Fox News is a joke because Fox News is not a real news station. They've admitted that in court, and I will say it every chance I get. But the fact that he called a program that was for diversity, equity, inclusion, hey, it's DEI. No, DEI is terrible. Why? It's only terrible for those that have white privilege. Because without DEI, the ones that win are the ones that have white privilege. Oh, well, we shouldn't need DEI. We should be able to get the best person for the best job based on their merit and their abilities. Really? Explain 1950 to now. Because if that's the case, because last time I checked, all the prominent positions were held by a certain napkin color. Whereas people of different pigmentation had a little bit of an issue, or of a gender had a little bit of an issue. So yes, we need the DEI. And that program that was there at the Department of Defense was perfect to include women in it because I'm going to be honest, I've seen enough guys run enough offices. I would like to see what the other gender can do. I would like to see what women can do. I would. Well, you just want your entire department, you want your defense ran by women? Well, we've had our defense ran by men for the last 47 presidents. I'm just saying it can't hurt to try once. But with Pete Hegseth, it's not surprising. Not only the fact that he looks at a diversity, equity, inclusion program as woke, he also sees potential enemies everywhere because they say, in quotes, leak things to the press. And I'm sorry for a guy that is now not once, but twice has turned around and leaked information via a signal chat to people that were unqualified, is now going to accuse others of leaking secrets and even more so threaten to polygraph them. You can't make this up.
Pete Hegseth is on his way to the southern border. The surprise announcement comes as he faces new accusations of turmoil at the Pentagon. Sources tell ABC News Hegseth is accusing top military officers of leaking classified information, even shouting and cursing at the former acting chairman of the Joint Chiefs. This as questions mount about Hegseth's own conduct and the sudden departure of his chief of staff. ABC News senior Pentagon reporter Louis Martinez is here with more. So, Louis, what's the latest on this controversy inside the Department of Defense?
Well, what we are learning is that Secretary Hegseth had what's called a non-secure internet line in his personal office here at the Pentagon. Typically, there's a classified system, there's an unclassified system, and then there's a commercially available line, what is known in the parlance here as a dirty line, which is essentially, it will have some security firewalls, but not at the level that the ones that DoD has. And apparently he used this on a computer in his office so that he could access signal. So that is something that is brand new. And we also, as you mentioned, we're getting new information about how in the wake of Elon Musk's visit, which was essentially what triggered the leak investigation here at the Pentagon about a month ago, Hegseth laid into two senior officers in the Joint Staff, one, the acting chairman of the Joint Chiefs, essentially saying that he was demanding a polygraph from him. And we also have information also coming from other officials confirming that another senior official at the Joint Staff, General Sims, was also told very much the same thing. So two scenarios here where we understand that Defense Secretary Hegseth, under pressure, if one would say, in terms of trying to identify where that leak came from, that Elon Musk was coming here to the Pentagon to receive a briefing on China. And now we're also learning that Secretary Hegseth himself had this line that he had ordered be placed inside his personal office here at the Pentagon.
I love the fact that remember a long time ago where Republicans were mad about Hillary Clinton and a certain email server that she had, and they tried to sit there and say that that was a security issue, and we need to go back and get that server and all the emails, and then somehow it led to Benghazi and then all this crap. And now our Secretary of Defense has decided, above all else, that he needs a non-secure line installed in his office. Am I the only person here that's just, history is like, well, wait a minute. You guys literally got in a tiffy about this, and now that drunk Pete Hegseth, or as I like to call him, a man that needs to put down the bourbon or prove to us that he can't actually be sober, has decided he needs a personal line. And it's amazing to me how everybody else has sat there and said, oh, no, that's fine. Really? Where's the no anger, no anything? It's just, it's okay. I mean, it comes with the territory. It comes with the territory. And that's what's so crazy about it, that he's doing exactly what they accuse Hillary of doing. And it's crickets. A man who can't stay sober, a man who turns around and accuses other people of leaking information, which he has already done himself twice. His chief of staff has left, surprisingly. And all I can sit there and say is it's only a matter of time before either he resigns or something else happens. I'm just saying. But he's not the only one that I think is on borrowed time. Let's go to the Department of Homeland Security director and prominent F-47 ass kisser, Kristi Noem, who, again, if you've seen her, decides that she has to have an ops pick in everything that she does, because she is going with ICE along the border for raids, things of that nature. Says that right now things are great. That legal crossings are down, the deportations are up, even though there have been massive mistakes, especially with Abrego Garcia, which we covered that last week. That, of course, come to find out, not only is illegal, but the government, along with El Salvador, is dragging their heels about getting this man back. Amazing when there's egg on the face of two countries, how slow they move when you think they should be moving quicker than anything else to basically rectify a wrong. Even more so, there's even stories of children who are U.S. citizens, like in this case, a woman from Honduras who was illegal, but her child who was born in the States is legal. And they deported them both. To which Kristi says, yep, that's a common thing. And the crazy part about this all is that how they started this whole thing of illegal immigration. Well, we would have cracked down on fentanyl. Fentanyl wasn't coming through the South. Fentanyl was actually coming from the East and the North. The places where, I'm just going to be honest, the color scheme was a little bit lighter in some areas. So that was part of it. And it's like, oh, we want to make sure our Americans are safe. From what? I mean, first you said it was the fentanyl crisis. Then you said it was an attack. They're sending their worst. Then you said, it kept on going down the list. All goes back to F-47 and their justification. But then you got people out there that are truly racist and want to say, yes, we want to deport these illegal immigrants because they're taking our jobs. Really? The jobs that nobody wants to do, or the jobs that you think you should have, but you may not be qualified for? You tell me. But no. Again, this is the same woman whose purse was stolen. And again, they say it was an undocumented person, to where she says she's 100% sure about that. Just goes to show you that they're no longer wearing the Klan mask anymore. They're out and they're proud about everything that they do. Even more so that the White House literally, and this is out there right now, to where they have 100 posters of alleged criminals that were captured. And I kid you not, there's just something wrong about this. To where this is not the biggest look at me, look what I did, mom thing. Because yes, this is on the White House. Every alleged criminal or illegal immigrant that they arrested supposedly has a record. Now, the simple fact of the matter is, if you're sitting there and telling me that every illegal immigrant that you find, and you're able to find a record on them, but our immigration system can't be fixed, which is what should be done anyway. What actually, you know what? Because again, this is what Republicans do. Republicans will love to ignore the problem until it's a Democratic problem. And what I mean by that is they will turn around and not fix the immigration system. Even though DACA was a nice try, the DREAM Act was a nice try, but Republicans don't want the immigration problem fixed. It's just like the VA. The VA can be fixed easily within days. Republicans do not want the VA system fixed. Republicans do not want the immigration system fixed. Why? Because they thrive in chaos. It's what keeps Fox News and the Daily Beast and all those other publications and media stations alive. They thrive off the chaos. And especially when the Republicans are not in power, it's an easy blame game. Oh, the Democrats, Joe Biden let this many people through the border. I'm sorry, are we running out of space in America? Are we not a nation of immigrants? Outside of Native Americans, I think everybody else either came here based off voluntary acts, or your ancestors were in involuntary measures. One of the two. But it's amazing that we could fix the immigration system and our problems at the border would drop. So-called problems, that is. Folks are escaping volatile and dangerous countries just to remain alive. I can't blame them for that. But at the same time, if our immigration system was fixed, if our VA system was fixed, will we still have these same problems? I think not. But again, this is where F-47 and his administration cult thrive on chaos by basically adding fuel to the fire and not trying to put the fire out. But we'll still turn around and act like who started the fire in the first place while they're holding the matches. That's all I'm saying. But like I said, going back to chaos, here's another thing that Republicans want to do. They want to go after student loans. They want to go after student loans. Now, of course, Trump and his Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, have already said off the bat that they want to basically deconstruct the Department of Education. But Linda McMahon has sat there and said that payments on student loans will resume in May. Now, to add more fuel to this fire, because again, Republicans love chaos. They thrive in chaos. The actual plan that was put in place for income-based repayment plans, they wanted to go after, like the SAVE plan. Republicans want to throw that plan out. What they want to do is, outside of extending the F-47's tax cuts, which do not do anything except for the rich, which means that for them cutting taxes on the rich, that means that the middle and lower class will be paying more. So what do they want to do? They wanted to turn around and say, you know what? We want to address the root cause of skyrocketing college costs. How so? Because they want to remove the student plan. They want to remove the SAVE plan, which again is scary. Saving on a valuable education, my apologies, or the SAVE plan was what Biden was doing. Now, to keep in mind, guys, this was the plan that was basically supposed to take care of the backlog. Because again, if you're on a public self-loan, which means that you're working for the public as a first responder, educator, things of that nature, supposedly if you made your payment, if you made 10 years worth of payments or 120 payments, whichever comes first, that your student loan, the rest of your student loan will be forgiven, and then, you know, you're free and clear. Republicans hate that. They want to get rid of it. Now, why do they want to get rid of it? Well, because they want to turn around and make sure that their debt people, companies, and probably kickbacks they've been getting, because people with student loans are unfortunately continuous payers. They are. Because I said it before, student loans is a predatory lending program that should be abolished. Banks should not be allowed to do what they've been doing to 18 and younger individuals who simply want to go to college, because we were all sold the story of you have to have a degree to have a great career, to get a good paying job, and it's just a small investment. Although tuition goes up every year, but the education is still the same. Even more so to where some kids are still wondering. Some kids have sat there and said, you know what? I don't want to go the route of traditional college. Or even some have even signed up for the military just to pay for college. But this is the part where, again, we should be worried. I just want to throw this out there, and I want to make sure I'm highlighting this correctly. So here's what the Republican Party wants to do. They want to, instead of the income repayment plans or the save plan that they want to get rid of, they want to offer the standard repayment plan. That will allow borrowers to repay their loans with a fixed monthly payment with terms that extend from 10 to 25 years based on the amount borrowed. Example, people with less than $25K in debt can repay their loans over 10 years, while those with $25,000 to $50,000 in loans would have 15 years of repayments. They just extended the terms. This is like saying getting a car. This is like getting a car for 36 months and extending it to 72. They want you to pay more. Even more so, the Pell Grant program, which again is supposed to be for low and middle income students, they want to change the definition of a full-time student to someone with at least 15 credit hours per semester, which was different because as long as you have 12 credit hours per semester, you were considered a full-time student, which again, if you were going part-time, at least you would get Pell Grants. But now 15 credits, which is above part-time, would be the barrier that they want to go along. And here's the crazy part about all of this. It makes it harder to be qualified. And this is the thing that a lot of people are not understanding. This is why I keep saying the Republicans do not care, because the last thing they want, the absolute last thing they want, is a generation of thinkers. That's all. It's the last thing they want. It's amazing because they love the fact of, again, they love the fact of payers. It's just like renters and homeowners. Yes, homeowners do pay, but for a finite amount of time. Eventually, that homeowner is going to make that last payment on his mortgage to the bank, and then he gets the deed to his house or their house, and they own it. Renters are forever payers. And I hate it because me and my wife rent the house we live in, and I hate it I hate it every month to watch that amount of money go down the drain just to stay in a house. So again, as renters, that's what we're stuck with. You're stuck with continually paying, and it doesn't go anywhere, and it's just money down the drain. Republicans see student loans the same way. If the student loans, which by the way, still well over almost $1 trillion, which they don't want to forgive, but they were happy to forgive nearly $763 billion of a $793 billion paycheck protection program, by the way. Never forget that. But now they want to turn regular college students and post-college students into forever payers. That's all it is. This program is not designed to get people out of student loan debt. This is to lock them in for as long as humanly possible. And at the same time, guys, student loan debt on a credit report can really hinder your way of life, especially if you're trying to get a house, if you're trying to get a car, or even a job, because jobs check credit reports too. So that type of debt is just hanging around people's necks. And again, I will say this, Biden could have possibly done more and really pushed to have student loans wiped out completely, but at least they tried something. Trump and his administration don't want to try anything but to make sure that the church gets their money. And that's exactly what they're attempting to do. And again, much like immigration, much like the VA system, they don't want to fix anything. They just want the chaos. But speaking of chaos, Amazon seemed to be in a little tiffy with the White House because, something about tariffs and showing their prices. Well, the so-called people that call people snowflakes had a little bit of a problem with that.
It was reported this morning that Amazon will soon display a little number next to the price of each product that shows how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the cost of each product. So isn't that a perfect crystal clear demonstration that it's the American consumer and not China who is going to have to pay for these policies?
I will take this since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
Is Jeff Bezos still a Trump supporter?
Look, I will not speak to the president's relationships with Jeff Bezos, but I will tell you that this is certainly a hostile.
I love the fact that you just had a cutout, you had a printout ready to go. Here's Jeff Bezos with a Chinese right-hand person, and Amazon's going to show the tariff cost because they should, because you should know how much you're paying in tariffs because F-47. But that's not what I meant. That's how she sounded. But Jeff Bezos, his relationship with the president, I can't speak on that, but you can say the man has allegiances to the Far East. Here's the thing. That was part one. Of course, just like every part one, there's also a part two.
Jeff Bezos, who is worth about $205 billion and had a front row seat to the inauguration, is now getting blasted by the White House for what they call a hostile and political act. But now the Amazon founder and his company are walking back this idea that the website was about to display the cost of President Trump's tariffs right next to the total price of products.
This is a hostile and political act by Amazon.
Yeah, it's amazing. Apparently, F-47 and Bezos had a conversation, and now Amazon denies it was ever going to list the tariff costs. Here's my thing. Why not do it? Why? Not even Amazon, eBay, every other place. Why not? Why not list the tariff costs? Because you know what? That's education. That's people going, well, why is everything so much higher? Oh, the tariffs. Well, wait, so in order for me to order this from Amazon, I've got to pay $20 in tariffs? Yes. Because if you think Amazon's going to eat that cost, if you think a business is going to eat the tariff cost for the consumer, you are definitely delusional. At the same time, Amazon, love them or hate them, biggest online retailer in the world, could do more damage to the White House by simply posting the tariff costs. You could. And what's the harm? Because here's my thing. They can't get mad if Amazon decides to post tariff costs. Because who put the tariffs in the first place? The idiot that's currently in the White House. So why are you going to get mad that your tariff costs are being put there for the consumer to see? Oh, that's right. You don't want them to think. Because again, much like everything else in this country, people who voted for F-47 will always not be affected until they're affected. I'm telling you right now, farmers will be the first ones to go running to F-47. Please bail us out again like you did in your first term, because your tariffs are hurting us. Even more so, it's not just that. Automakers, remember, he put tariffs on all foreign imports. Automakers have never had a fully assembled U.S. car with U.S. parts. And if you thought that part was crazy, he's here again at a rally. Because yes, for some odd reason, the president has so much time on his hands, he can go out and campaign like it's 2016 all over again. But here's what he said about the tariffs on vehicles.
He proudly imposed a 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles, any foreign car, like they do tariffs. This is going to create more jobs in this state and this country. And to help these automakers bring their factories home as rapidly as possible, I've just signed an executive order to give partial tariff rebates to any company that assembles its cars right here in the U.S. In other words, if they can't make it in time because they have to do it here, otherwise they have it, I'm giving them a little bit of a break, right? They took in parts from all over the world. I don't want that. I want them to make their parts here. But I gave them a little bit of time. It's 15% and then 10% of the parts. So it's not so bad. Somebody would say, oh, well, that's a change in parts. It's not. It's called a little flexibility. The guys were crying. They love it. Everything's good. But just in case we can't get everything in time, we gave them a little bit. So it's 15% of the parts and then it's 10% of the parts. We give them a little time before we slaughter them if they don't do this. Right. They're going to make so much money. They're going to have so many jobs.
And the crazy part is he really believes that. But yes, he turns around and says, oh, it's the automakers, because you guys are going to get hit. We're going to give you 25% on your tariffs. And then, again, the big automakers, whether it's Ford, whether it's Stellantis, whether it's GM, whether it's, well, yeah, that's about usually the big three. But they're not going to, as much as he thinks it's going to happen, it's not. Their parts, let me say this, and I'll be honest, as a car guy, I love working on my cars. I do. But anybody that's ever worked in a car, worked in a dealership, or has assembled a vehicle will tell you off the bat, there is not a snowball's chance in hell that you will get a fully assembled U.S. built car with all parts made in the U.S. You won't, because the market is set up differently now. And again, he thinks his tariffs, or he thinks that he's being nice, is actually going to fix things. Guess what? It's not. The automakers will simply do what they've always done. Take the money and pocket it, or give it to their shareholders or their CEOs. And it always amazes me that these crowds that are always behind F-47, I want them to go back after the fact and see if they still feel the same way. Because, again, it amazed me that folks that did vote for F-47, I haven't heard a positive thing yet once it's affected them. And trust me, if those tariffs do go into place, it will affect them as well, as in losing jobs and factories closing. Because, again, tariffs have never forced production back to its home country. They just found other ways of getting around it. Much like the TikTok people have done as far as buying directly from China and skipping the tariffs. Again, can't knock them for that. But moving right along, guys, we want to cover this story because, again, this does involve law enforcement, and this does involve the fact that police reform, especially about the Supreme Court hearing about FBI officers raiding the wrong house. And as many times we heard law enforcement getting it wrong, this is a case that definitely does need to be heard because police reform is definitely needed.
The nation's highest court hearing a major case today that could mean restitution for victims of wrong house police raids.
You got the wrong house. I live alone.
This video has become one of the most high-profile examples. Police mistakenly raiding social worker Anjanette Young's Chicago home in 2019.
I've been diagnosed with major depression and PTSD. It is something that you live with, and you have to learn how to manage it.
Young sued the city of Chicago and received a $3 million settlement. But this Georgia family now has their case before the Supreme Court. They're seeking damages from the FBI after agents burst into their Atlanta home with flashbang grenades in 2017, mistaking it for the nearby home of a suspected gang member.
I thought someone was breaking in, and it was so chaotic that I thought they had a mission, and the mission was to kill us.
They threw me down on the floor and they were interrogating me and they were asking me questions. And I guess the answers that I was responding to them with didn't add up. And that's when I realized that they were in the wrong place.
The couple said there was $5,000 in damage to their home on top of emotional trauma. They say an agent returned later to apologize and left a business card with the supervisor's name. The FBI denied the family's claims for restitution, arguing legal immunity. Congress did carve out an exception in 1974 for victims of assault, battery, false imprisonment, false arrest, or abusive process by an officer. The government denies the exception applies to wrong house raids.
And that's the problem. And I'm sorry, I will always say F the police because that's how I feel about it. But you're not going to sit there and tell us that, okay, you're going to sit there and tell me with the abilities of law enforcement that you guys can track suspects, you can know where they all go, you can serve warrants, but apparently none of you can read. And it's amazing to me that no, the story before that, the woman in Chicago, we covered that. We covered it a few years back, to where they raided the wrong house and woke someone up out of their bed, a woman that unfortunately was sleeping naked. Now guns in her face, guns and flashlights in her face. A few guys asking her multiple questions, and she's terrified. And now you have a family who, again, the FBI raided the house, the wrong house, caused personal as well as physical trauma and damage. And now you're going to stand and say, well, they're protected. No. And this is the problem with quantitative immunity, and the police have immunity against raids. You shouldn't have that. If we're trusting you to protect and serve, if we're trusting you by empowering you to arrest and detain citizens, if we're trusting you to do your job, then you should be held accountable. Because that family, especially that young man, they're all going to see things differently now. At the same time, it's going to affect them, just like it affected that woman in Chicago. She says she has PTSD, and I can understand it. She never felt safe in her own home. So imagine the FBI again getting it wrong, raiding the wrong house. At the same time, you have guns in your face, and you're trying just to stay alive, because people of color in law enforcement don't really have a good success rate. So yes, I do think that law enforcement, and I've said before many times on this podcast, police reform does need to happen. I do think quantitative immunity should go. I do think I do think all forms of police, from your regular local police to FBI, should all be held accountable. Because again, if you get the wrong house because someone didn't do their job, and that's critical. It's, again, you can't have, and much like airplane pilots, you can't have a bad day as an airplane pilot when you're 30,000 feet up in the air, responsible for 200 plus souls. You can't have a bad day. And the same sense of law enforcement, for the lack of training, and I do say lack of training, the fast forwarding of getting you guys through the academy to on the street, which again, I've seen contractors, plumbers, and anesthesiologists study longer for that. And I can argue about the pay too. Yeah, the pay is crappy for you guys. But at the same time, you guys' jobs, you have to make sure that you are above suspicion. So we are going to follow that story with the Supreme Court. I do think, again, police reform needs to happen, and I do think quantitative immunity needs to go. I do think that the FBI should not have a blanket immunity just to cover up their mistakes. I do think in order to actually show some citizens' confidence in our law enforcement, there needs to be accountability with them. And I'm not saying the FBI needs to be investigated by the FBI. There does need to be some public oversight. That's all I'm saying. But another reason why, guys, I keep turning around and I keep saying that it's only a matter of time, because folks who voted for F-47 are going to feel it. Well, food banks, because again, the U.S. agricultural bill got cut. So a lot of places that are food banks and second harvest places that get those food donations, well, not anymore.
The federal government's $500 million nationwide cut to the Emergency Food Assistance Program, or TFAP, is already being seen here at Johnson County's Community's Food Pantry.
Right now, they're canceling truckloads of milk, dairy, meat, and vegetables that are being delivered to food banks here in Iowa, and we're seeing the cuts.
Barth says that means about $3.8 million in cuts for Iowa. HACAP, a food bank centered in Hiawatha, says it hasn't heard directly from the USDA, but it's also bracing for cuts.
As the need continues to grow and rise, the funding continues to go down. So that's obviously a huge problem for us, because in the time where we want to do more, we probably should do more, We obviously have to have the funds and able to do that. And we just, if we don't have that, it makes it incredibly hard to feed people locally.
Barth says the Johnson County Food Pantry may need to turn to other resources like churches and local donators to fill the need. But she says they've already had to close their doors on Wednesdays.
We're just trying to be as resourceful as possible just to stay open and keep our doors open.
Barth says they're meeting with the Johnson County HACAP on Friday to see what comes next.
It hurts. It's sad. It's sad that a resource as simple as food can be taken away from our neighbors that need it, from kids, elderly. It's sad that we can't provide the basic nutrition for our neighbors.
In Johnson County.
Yeah, you can provide the basic nutrition, as she says. But here again, that's in Iowa. And again, I hate to be this guy. I really hate to be this guy, but you got what you wanted. You literally voted 50%, 56% of Iowa voted for F-47. 42.7% did vote for Harris. And for some odd reason, Kennedy and Oliver got votes, which is still crazy to me. But again, guys, just point this out. You got what you wanted. You voted for it. And now you're stuck with it. Even more so, where I keep pointing this out, folks are going to be affected by this. And it never ceases to amaze me how many times I'm going to keep saying that the people that voted for F-47 and its policies will not feel it until they feel it. And with food banks, with VA, with immigration, across the board, it is going to affect us all. And here's the crazy part. It's only been 100 days. 100 days that this man has been in office and has dismantled what took 4 years to fix. But please tell me how somehow MAGA's winning, because I don't freaking see it. But moving right along, guys, we're going on to our feel good segment, because usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes making your faith humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow is Thursday. We want to leave you guys out with some good vibrations, some good notes. And this one is more historical than anything else. 6888. If you've never heard of the 6888, again, it is a based off an all-black women regiment. Tyler Perry did do a movie on this that's currently on Netflix. But there is a reason why we're going to bring this up, because much overdue flowers needs to be given to this troop.
Tonight, a long overdue recognition for the 6888. Signed, sealed, and delivered.
The long-awaited, much sought-after Congressional Gold Medal.
The 6,888th Central Postal Directory was the only Black all-female unit to serve in Europe during World War II. Its 855 members sent overseas in 1945 to clear a backlog of 17 million pieces of mail in 10 airplane hangars, stacked floor to ceiling with canvas bags. Letters from the home front, stuck in limbo at a time when morale was so critical.
Letters of home were very, very important. They were lifelines that grounded the soldiers. They reminded our brave heroes of all they were fighting for. It was actually waiting back at home.
80 years after their contribution to the war effort, Speaker Mike Johnson presenting the medal to the family of the unit commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams Early.
I am Captain Charity Adams,
who was portrayed in the 2024 Tyler Perry movie, The 6888, by Kerry Washington.
You and the 6888 Battalion are headed to Europe.
Showing the logistical nightmare that only the Black Women's Army Corps was able to resolve.
When there is no mail, there is low morale.
The recognition coming after a long-running campaign to recognize the efforts of the battalion. Only 2 members are still alive, both watching the ceremony from home. Al Roker speaking to 6888 veteran Lena King in 2022.
We had promised that we could do it, get it done. So we had to keep our promise, you know.
She, along with her sisters in uniform, were given 6 months to make their way through the backlog. They completed the mission in only 3. The unit developed a system of sorting with 3 8-hour shifts running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I think our motivation was to feel that we were making a contribution. We wanted to show proof that we loved our country, even if they didn't love us back, all the time.
King among the majority of members of the 6888, no longer here to accept Congress's highest civilian honor.
We forever will ensure that they will never, ever be hidden figures again. God bless you. God bless the 6888.
And Ryan Nobles joins us now from Capitol Hill. Ryan, it's hard to sort of wrap our mind around how difficult it must have been to tackle the challenge this battalion was given. That is something I understand the Speaker of the House actually addressed today as well.
Yeah, Allison, he actually used his own name as a way to demonstrate how big this challenge was. He said at that time, the first name Mike was the 9th most popular name in the United States. His last name Johnson, the 5th most popular last name. They estimate that somewhere in the range of 30,000 service members had the name Mike Johnson. Now imagine being one of these ladies trying to connect those letters with the right Mike Johnsons. It was a monumental task, and they did not have the modern technology that we have today to help with that system. They actually had to use 7 million different unique ID cards, physical ID cards, to attach the right letter to the right soldier to get them that note from home, which, as we learned, was so important to the morale of the soldiers during this pivotal time in American history. Allison?
I have chills just thinking about that.
And again, to the 6888, definitely your flowers need to be given above all else. Although Mike Johnson speaking, I'm sorry, fuck him. But no, it's supposed to be a feel-good segment. But fuck Mike Johnson. But no, the 6888 definitely does deserve their flowers for pulling off impossible feats. For doing what honestly I don't think any other unit would have been able to do. But honestly, just show you black women are magical individuals and freaking miracle workers as far as I'm concerned. But again, just want to give those flowers. And this is the reason why we keep on saying history and education is so freaking important. That being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you all for watching, for liking. I certainly appreciate it as we try to do this, try to be continuous about this. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. I always want to shout out Always Press Record. Why? Because, well, our shows on their networks. You can definitely check them out at Always Press Record TV or APR TV on the app, whether it's Amazon or Roku. At the same time, blurredstation.com. Again, a table we keep talking about that we need to have our own because our viewership basically made Tubi famous. Although Tubi is owned by the same guys who own Fox. And honestly, I would like to see our viewership, our content, most importantly, our dollars go back into our pocket. Blur Station is definitely doing that with people of color media, including television shows, movies, animation, things of that nature. It is $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station. $10.99 a month. Simply select the Join Now button. Select the Bird's Eye View Affinity membership. Select my name, Black Spartan there. And again, $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station. And yes, you can stream it on all smart devices. And again, this is the table that we keep asking for. BlurStation.com is definitely it. And finally, runforoffice.org. You want to know how the crazy people did it? How Moms for Liberty, the Tea Party, and all them other idiots got elected? Well, they started here. If you do feel the call for public service, whether it's local or national, definitely go here for Run for Office. Type your address in. It will get the process started on how you can put your name on the ballot, hopefully run. And if you are run, you are elected. And again, I keep saying this, guys. We are at the point to now we need a lot more people to act. Without this, we will have another repeat. If it's not F-47, it'll probably be his ass kisser J.D. Vance that's trying, or anybody else that's Trump affiliate. The thing about this, guys, you must get involved at somehow, some way. It doesn't always have to be at the political level because you can do more from the outside as well as the inside. Just saying. As for myself, guys, please follow us on YouTube at How the Frack We Got Here. Again, all together, easy to find us. At the same time, also, you can find me, Black_Spartan615 on YouTube as well. Like, share, and follow, guys. Again, I talk to everybody. Just don't be weird. I don't want to have to get this whole point of blocking people. Again, open conversations, I'm all for them. Productive conversations, I'm all for them. Just don't be weird. At the same time, guys, again, I know we talk about a lot of news and stuff, especially because F-47 show. But I will always say this: don't doom scroll. Please do not doom scroll. Every time he does something, it's all smoke and mirrors to this point. But hey, protect your peace, protect your heart, check on your people, including your strong friends. Do something that makes you happy. And if you have the ability to make somebody happy for a minute or a lifetime, go ahead and do so. The world can use more of that. But the last thing I'll say about the Frack We Got Here, guys, is all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are just simply giving you the information and allow you to make up your own mind. We do a lot better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past and making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, maybe one day electing our first black woman as the first Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up at our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians in Congress, but still the same old game there? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourself and each other. Don't doom scroll. Protect your peace. Enjoy the weekend. I know I will. It's Free Comic Book Day. Take it easy, guys. Until next time. Peace.